All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today for our June Garden Style Essay webinar. Do you feel like you spend your weekends mowing and caring for your lawn or want to fertilize and water less? Well, you've come to the right spot. We have three experts today to talk about South Texas turf grasses and turf alternatives. Mark Peterson is a project coordinator in our department and our resident garden geek. You may have heard him on a local radio gardening show or asked him a question through our website. And Gail Gallegos and Seth Patterson are two of our fantastic conservation consultants. You may have seen them driving around town in one of our SAWS garden style trucks and doing irrigation consultations in your neighborhood, or maybe even at your house. They see a lot of landscapes in our community and beyond and have some great suggestions for you today. Before we get started, Mark, if you can go to the next slide, perfect. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. At the bottom right of your screen, you should see a chat and a Q&A button. You may have to click the three little buttons that are there to find both options. Please put your questions into the Q&A box, and you can put them in as we go along, and we'll get to them at the end. So with that, Mark, take it away.
All right. Oh, let me go back to the other one. Just remind everybody, this is the Turf Grass and Turf Alternatives webinar. I'd like to thank everybody, especially Martha, for that lovely intro. I'd like to thank everybody. This is a continuing series of webinars. We like to offer these to our customers, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of fun, a little bit of photos. And you can go see these webinars on our calendar. It's gardenstylesanantonio.com, and check those for all the upcoming webinars. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but there's going to be some interesting ones coming up. So without further ado, wait a minute, Martha, forgot to talk about the webinars. The rewards points. If you are a rewards member and you take the survey at the end of this program, you will receive 1 point. If you're not a rewards member, let me just talk a little bit about that. If you're a rewards member, you can attend points by attending programs and events. Last year we didn't have too many events, but this year we're going to be looking forward to some more events. You get 3 points, you get a $30 coupon. With 5 points, you get a $50 coupon. And 7 points, you get a $70 coupon that can be used for pretty much everything except pesticides, fertilizers, and inorganic mulch. So without further ado, I'd like to make sure everybody is aware of the rewards program, and now off to the program itself. So again, we want to talk about traditional turf. Unfortunately, it's not going to be very likely here in South Texas. You need numerous things. You need lots of water, lots of soil, lots of sunshine. In fact, this is what you will see more often is droughty or frost conditions where our native, or not, I'm sorry, our eligible grasses, which we're going to talk about here, they go through periods of dormancy where they turn lovely colors of brown. To have a lawn in South Texas, you are limited to certain species: Bermuda grass, zoysia, St. Augustine, or one of the native grasses, native bunch grasses, buffalo grass, blue grama, curly mesquite. And as I mentioned, you must have soil, at least 6 inches of soil. And you must mow every week from October to April to October. And you're going to have to water once a week in the absence of rain. Now, this year, that has not been a problem. But in the absence of rain, you're going to have to water once a week during the growing season and once a month during the non-growing season. You're going to have to fertilize twice a year. Now, a little bit more on that a little bit later. And you must mow every week. Did I mention that? You must mow every week. And you have to have lots of money and time. Now, as I mentioned, wait. Let's talk about fertilizer just a moment. You get it all the time, a lot of fertilizer advertisements beginning in February and March. Depending on the species, the turf grass requirement is between 2 and 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet of actual nitrogen per year. But if you leave your clippings through a mulching mower or just leave them on there, that equals about 1.5 to 2 pounds of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per year. And if you add high quality compost, either spring or fall or both, you're going to add about 1/4 pound to 1/2 pound of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet and per event. So if you add it twice, that's going to be close to 1 pound. So if you add that all up, you're about 3 pounds of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per year. So you're getting pretty close. So in actuality, you don't have to add much nitrogen at all, much fertilizer at all. But then I hear in my ear, what about weed and feed? Sure, you will start hearing those advertisements in February and March as well. Well, the feed part is only applicable to the weeds because the grasses are dormant pretty much until the mid-April. So all you're doing is feeding the weeds. As far as the weed part, the herbicide part, most of those weeds are in the springtime are going to die by May. Now this year, with lots of cool temperatures and rain, they're hanging around. But normally, most of the weeds are already dead by this time of year. So you're wasting the herbicide. And most importantly, any herbicide that kills a broadleaf weed will kill a non-target species like a perennial, shrub, or even a tree. Seth, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. So, of course, we've established that it's probably not the most suitable conditions here in San Antonio to grow a nice green grass lawn. But the reason for that is we don't have the climate for it or the geology. We need nice deep soils to really support that turf. So if you don't have it, that means you have to throw lots of water, lots of fertilizer, things to stimulate growth in non-ideal habitats. So there are other options to that, ways to reduce the amount of grass or turf you have in your lawn or your yard and accent it with other possibilities. One popular option here in the hill country is a mixed native species of grass known as Habiturf or Thunderturf. These are both commercially available products. Habiturf is made by Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, and Thunderturf is through the Native American Seed Company. These are actually just a seed mix. So they have buffalo grass, blue grama, and curly mesquite. And they've chosen these three mixes because all three of them have kind of a similar soft, wispy, beautiful green appeal to them. So they mix well and they blend in seamlessly. But then you also have a mix in case one doesn't do as well, the others kind of fill in and take over. So if one is the soil's not right for one species, another might take over. The wonderful thing about these mixes is, of course, you still have to have that 6 inches of soil. So if you're up in the Rocky Hills, you can probably do away with grass altogether and look at other options. But if you do happen to have the 6 inches of soil, these are very low maintenance options for having a turf grass lawn. The important things to remember here are you have to water them very, very little. Once you've established the seed, you can go during the dormant season without watering at all, and then during the growing season, just a couple times a month, if at all. If we get rain, they'll just perfectly sprout up and do wonderfully with the rainfall we've gotten. The other thing to remember is this grass has to be maintained higher. So you're going to have a longer, wispy, flowing grass. They say mow it maybe once or twice a year at most, and to a height of about 4 inches. So ideally, you're not spending every weekend cutting that grass down to 2 or 3 inches like you are right now. And this grass also is self-seeding, so it's ideally to let it grow up and seed, and all those seeds fall, so the next season those seeds take off and your grass reestablish itself. Of course, it does best in full sun, so it's not going to be good in shade. Might want to look at other options there. But if you are okay with moving away from grass altogether, or if you live in an environment where there's just not enough soil to conducively provide grass, there's a lot of other options like ground covers, and we'll show you a lot of choices a little bit later on. But once they're established, they require very little water, almost no fertilizer, and you can mow them once a year to kind of replenish and refresh the foliage, and they're extremely low maintenance. And again, we'll discuss those a little more. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of what a Habiturf grass lawn looks like here on the left. You can see it's kind of a wispier, but it's also a very beautiful green coloration. It's very nice to walk on, very friendly to your feet. You can see how it's maintained a little bit longer. But this is also a really beautiful picture in that it demonstrates the idea of, you know, most people have a solid grass lawn with very little other plants or aesthetics involved. So when you start to design your new landscape and do away with the old-fashioned green yard, remember you don't necessarily walk on every inch of that turf. So consider making small strips of turf where you can accent it with beautiful beds of flowers and other ground covers and plants that really add an aesthetic and bring in pollinators, birds, butterflies, and all those things that you want in your yard. And it kind of creates a beautiful appeal. Here on the right, we have some other options where instead of doing turf, you accent the edges of your property with big brunch grasses like muley, gamma, or inland sea oats, where you can actually create borders along and kind of decorate your lawn and your yard and move away from the idea that everything just has to be flat, green, well-cut grass. You start to create a whole habitat in your lawn. Next slide.
Seth, I love the part where you said you're decorating your yard, because I mean that's kind of what you'd like to do. Instead of having this one monoculture of grass, wouldn't it be cooler to have something that's interesting to look at, interesting to walk through, and much more enjoyable to just, you know, sit in? And ground covers offer that choice. It uses 50 to 70% less water. And let's face it, water is the precious resource in our Central Texas area. And these ground covers, they can work for sun or shade. They, again, need no fertilizer, maybe some compost. That would be great. And once a year mowing, and that's a maybe. You know, like Seth said, it's kind of good to just kind of give them a little trim to kind of refresh the growth again. But, you know, these are just some beautiful choices that we're going to talk about, and they're a lot more diverse than a monoculture of grass, which doesn't really offer much to the eye or to the nature around you. And by the way, today's secret word for our program is Texas sedge. Next slide. In addition to ground covers, some of the things we can also do to reduce having that yard full of grass is to create permeable patioscapes. These are going to be wonderful ways that eliminate water, mowing, fertilizing, but they also create useful places for you to be in your yard, whether it's a fire ring, a patioscape, extending your patio, or making a whole corner just an area to come sit. And again, like I said, whether or not you decorate your yard with these bunch grass and garden beds, we've got water saver coupons that are going to help you get this done. In addition, we have all kinds of designs and how-to videos on our gardenstylesanantonio.com website. So if these pictures appeal to you, then we've got a website to help you get there. Easy steps, not hard. One of the articles that I liked was saying putting these flagstone patios together is like a jigsaw puzzle, and that's kind of fun. So you can apply for the Water Saver Patioscape coupon and save $100 to $200. And what's really important is that these are coupons. So before you go out and buy any flagstone brick or pavers, apply for the coupon. We're going to send it to you. You're going to carry it to the vendor and show it to them on your phone, and you're going to save $100 to $200 and create a beautiful space. And as you see, these are some just sit spots or some walk paths that have some interesting plants around them as well. Next slide. So again, shade, maybe you just want to create a great sit spot by that beautiful tree that you have in your yard. Maybe you want to create pool that's not going to have you mowing all the time, and certainly not watering. The possibilities are endless. We've got articles, we've got pictures, we've got all kinds of how-tos, and we've got coupons that are going to help you get there. In addition to the Patioscape coupons, we have landscape coupons. So these are going to get you $100 to take out 200 square feet of grass. As you see, they're colorful, beautiful water saver plants that you can put instead of grass. It's easy to kind of start. 200 square feet is about the size of a parking space. And it doesn't have to be the shape of a parking space. All you have to do is figure out the shape you want. Maybe it's a corner of your yard. Maybe it's next to your house or the back of your fence. Figure out where you can take out 200 square feet of grass, stop watering so much, and put a beautiful, interesting landscape bed, and we'll help you get there. Again, we've got articles and everything else on the sanantonio.com website.
Gail, what could be your favorites?
So everybody has plants they like to swoon over. And quite honestly, I just swoon for inland sea oats. It's gorgeous all year long. In the spring, it emerges and it's got these tiny seed heads that grow to be quite large, nodding. They're wide, but when you look at them the other way, they're as thin as paper. They just add a lot of interesting beauty. And I liked what Seth said about decorating and ornaments. And you could put these in a corner. Here's the great thing. They tolerate shade. A lot of us have mature trees or a shady spot, and we're like, I can't get anything to grow there. Try inland sea oats. And then as we move towards the fall, they turn into this beautiful brown center top picture. So you get that gorgeous little fall pop and nodding seed heads. Silver ponyfoot's the other one that I'm in love with. It's got this gorgeous silver color. It's low growing. It's vining. It's amazing in the sun. You practically never have to water it. In fact, you can overwater it. And it's beautiful, and you see from this bed on the right-hand side, it just adds such an interesting color, and you can do more things with it by adding, other plants around it. So those are my two favorites. Seth?
Seth.
Absolutely. So my first favorite is called Horseherb. It's also commonly known as straggler daisy. If you live here in San Antonio, there's a good chance if you walk out in your yard right now, you're going to find this plant already growing there. And it's a very tenacious, unfortunately, some people consider it a weed, but it's a wonderful little plant, and it's eager to grow anywhere you choose to let it grow, and it will create a complete beautiful ground cover. So if you want to do away with grass, this little plant is probably already eager and willing to start growing in your yard. You just have to give it a little bit of time to take over, and it does wonderful with neglect. So if you don't water it, it's going to continue to grow. If whatever rainfall we get is plenty to sustain it. If we go through times of drought, it'll shrivel up a little bit, but as soon as it rains again, it'll lush out. It's got a beautiful, soft green color, but it also accented by little tiny yellow flowers. So it adds a nice contrast throughout your yard. And it also tolerates being mowed. So you can, you want to mow it fairly high, but once or twice a year, if you want to just kind of knock it back to keep it at a certain height, it creates a beautiful green yard basically without actually having to have a yard or grass. It tolerates moderate foot traffic. Obviously, it's not going to take walking every single day back and forth on it, but walking through it a few times a day is totally perfect. The other one that I really love, and I used to have to take care of this yard here on the right, this buffalo grass lawn. And I had never really dealt with buffalo grass before. I'd always been taking care of more St. Augustine and Bermuda grass. So this was a real treat to get to experience a native grass lawn. One of my absolute favorite things about buffalo grass is how long you maintain it. This lawn, we'd mow it maybe once a year and only to 4 or 5 inches in height. So it would always have this wispiness, and when the winds would blow through it, you felt like you were out on the prairie with the buffaloes running around you as the grass kind of wisped and flowed. Really beautiful, soft green texture. Easy to maintain, very, very little water usage. I know Mark had mentioned it maintains best on a slope, and he was right. This is on a very well sloped lawn in this circumstance where it's got very well drained area. I mean, it doesn't want to sit in water ever. So if you have of course, you do need soil for this. So if you have some deep soil here in San Antonio with a slope, you may want to give some buffalo grass a try. It's really beautiful little plant. And of course, it grows from seed. So if you let it seed out every year, it'll reseed itself and just continue to grow.
Excellent. Well, I couldn't decide on two, even though I asked my coworkers to do two. I decided on these ones. A little different. Leadwort, aka dwarf plumbago, is a native species, although a little further north. Woody stomodia in the top middle. This is a site over at Sarah's headquarters on Ginther Street, and you can see it covers a wide area in semi-shade, and frog fruit down below that. That also is an excellent species for covering a wide area, and again in sun and shade. I had a little light in there, so I always use this picture for partial shade. And then one of my favorite species on the far right is clover fern. It is neither a clover nor a fern. However, well, it is kind of in the fern family. That's why we call it that. But it is an indicator species in areas which are riparian areas or have a little moisture near seep. But we used it at the botanical gardens for a very long time in an area which never received any water, supplemental water. So, and it survived quite well. But the texture is a little bit different. A lot of the stuff we've been recommending has little fine features. This one, obviously not fine, but the texture is wonderful. So those were our favorites.
I just wanted to mention also that if you had a little low spot in your yard, especially,
yes.
yeah, for either clover fern, frog fruit, or that inland sea oats, you would see very happy plants. And when it came to our favorite, we almost had to like arm wrestle over who got to use what.
Yeah. Well, since I'm the host
King.
of this, I get to do whatever I want. However, it's a great idea. Grotto. Think grotto on those species that was just mentioned by Gail. Well, we have a lot of other species that we couldn't mention, but we put them all in order right now. We have sun, either sun or shade, and then the shade. Now, some of you may be scribbling these down. Don't worry, as Martha said, we're going to save this and you'll be able to watch this over and over and over again. We hope you do on our webinar tab on our site, Garden Style, SanAntonio.com. And you look on there in presentations and look on the web tab. I will also have this so you can send it to the Garden Geek. I don't know who that is, but you can send a question to the Garden Geek and he will send that to you. So we have lots of choices on here. Some of them that we haven't talked about or just briefly mentioned. But you know what? We couldn't resist. So Gail sat down and put a lot of photos together. I
like photos.
You like photos. So I'm going to go through those. And then we're going to end up and allow a little Q&A. So if you do have any questions, put them in the Q&A, not the chat, please. And then Martha will organize those and then ask them to us at the end. So there's a list.
One, so we'll get to them in a second.
Okay. Good. We have some. Excellent. So just wanted to go through briefly some photos. And like Gail said, photos are worth 1,000 words and they're wonderful. So we just wanted to go through that. So here's a picture in Monte Vista. This was designed by a good friend of mine, a well-known author named Scott Ogden. The entire front yard could not grow any grass, not even St. Augustine grass. So what do we use? Texas sedge. This is a grass-like plant. It is not grass, it is a sedge. And so you see it when it was first planted and then after it was established. Texas sedge. You might want to remember that. All right, and we talked about herbs. A lot of people aren't they don't think about herbs. But here's a variety of herbs that can be used in sun or shade. Mint has to be in shade. However, mint can get away from you. So please use it in an enclosed bed or a container. Creeping germander, an excellent one of my favorites. And on the right, frog fruit. One thing about frog fruit, or two things actually. It is a permitted plant in our water saver landscape coupon. And two, it is a pollinator magnet. Both bees and butterflies love this plant. Green Santolina comes in a gray or green form. The Damanita, that is one of my favorite plants because I consider it an indestructible. It grows in the cracks of asphalt parking lots. If it grows in the grass in the cracks of parking lots, you can grow it too. Ajuga is also known as bugleweed. If you have it in areas with deer, you're going to have a problem because it is deer dessert. Deer love it. Dwarf Mexican petunia. Remember to always get the dwarf version
Not the other
because
one.
the big one, it is a weed, explosive weed. Skullcap, some of Gail and I's favorites, frequently used in rain gardens. It was used in the Sarah rain garden. It was Wright's skullcap. It's an excellent. These are excellent species for full sun areas. Woody stomodia, mentioned that. That's one of my favorites. Monkey grass. Monkey grass is an old standard. It comes in a standard and a dwarf version. I haven't asked my coworkers about it, but I love the standard one because it is more wispy, more blows. The dwarf is just kind of sitting there, dwarf. So, leadwort, one of my favorites again. English ivy, the standard by which all standards are held. It is old-fashioned, it is old-timey, but it must be done in shade here. Sexmania also goes by the name Wedelia, but there's a tropical version of Wedelia. Don't get that one. Get the native Sexmania. And purple oxalis, hey, it has a pink, beautiful pink flower. You can just see it just starting to develop there on the left, sorry. My right, your left, or vice versa. Finally, just to remind everybody, the code word for today is Texas sedge. Remember to complete the survey after we get done with this webinar. One of the questions will involve the code word Texas sedge. We're going to do some questions in a little bit here, but if we don't get to your question, please submit it to the Garden Geek at gardenstylesanantonio.com. And sometimes you may think about it later on that you had questions. Just submit that to the Garden Style and the Garden Geek tab. So, Martha, do we have any questions?
We have a lot. We're getting them
good.
coming in quick. So
Yeah.
thank you, Seth, Gail, and Mark. This is lots of great information. And I love how much variety you guys have provided, especially with all the pictures. And like Gail, I love what Seth said about decorating your yard. When you see some of these pictures, it really looks like the yard is decorated, especially around a patio or in the corners of the yard where it really frames the yard. So that's great. So let's jump into questions. Mark, one of the first questions that came in was about what would you use to add additional nitrogen?
What would I use? Well, again, I work for SAWS Conservation. So twofold. I want to reduce the amount of water, and then also I want to make sure that I'm not polluting the aquifer or the Gulf, because I do like to go fishing occasionally in the Gulf. So what I would use is I would use a high quality compost, which is going to, again, like I said, about a quarter to half a pound of nitrogen, or I'm going to use maybe one of the organics that has a number below 10. The first number always should be below 10. So there's lots of great products out there. I used to be they're no longer in business, but it was a company. So Medina Products, Nature Select, Texas Tea, Espoma, My friends down at Fanex, they have a lot of exponent products, so that's what I would use to add additional nitrogen. Organic that has a first number below 10.
Okay. And then Seth, buffalo grass, I agree with you. It's very, very pretty. I know when we were talking a couple days ago, you guys all said that it's not shade tolerant. Is there a mixed native species that's good for shade?
No, I mean,
Uh,
there is a variety of buffalo grass called Prestige that has been developed that is supposedly a little more shade tolerant, but if you have a lot of shade, you're better off avoiding turf grass altogether, in my
And
opinion.
go with sedge, right?
Sedges,
sedge
other
or
ground
what?
covers. I mean, and if you can't get anything to grow there, do a patioscape, and then, where you don't have the shade,
Yeah.
then put your ground covers or your grass.
Yeah, great. Mark, would you recommend True Green as a service that may be more familiar on how to and when to properly apply product to our San Antonio lawns?
There's a famous argument between me and True Green back when I was in school in the last millennia, the last century. There's still talk about it at Michigan State. I don't have a problem with them. I just think they're a little regulatory in that they continue to charge whether you need to have fertilization or not, or pest control or not. So I don't know if they do a very good job analyzing the product. So not to disparage them, they have their place, but I would probably not use them.
Also,
Okay.
How about
as a
that?
public utility, we really don't recommend
There you go. Thank you,
specific
Gail.
Yeah.
Thank you.
vendors. Yes.
Okay, and then Gail, this one's for you. I'm going to answer the first
Yay.
part of it and then get it to you. So we got questions about removing grass and replacing it with ground cover. Gail covered this pretty well. Yes, it's
Mhm.
definitely eligible for the SAWS Water Saver coupon. So make sure you check out our website before you start the project, because the Patioscape and Landscape are coupons. And so you apply for them, take your pictures and everything before you go to purchase the plants. You take the coupon with you and you get money off the purchase of the plants. But on that note, Gail, can you tell everyone how that can be combined with the irrigation design rebate?
Absolutely. It's a real good idea if you have an irrigation system to go ahead and get it checked out ahead of time so that we can make sure that everything is working correctly, but we can also give some advice while we're there as far as like what you're looking to do. One of the things that we are going to be looking for is everything working properly? Is there a zone that you could take out? And maybe when you go to look at where you're going to put your landscape bed, you are going to be putting water saver plants. You won't need that zone to be irrigated. You can get extra money by removing a zone. You'll get a rebate for removing the valve from that zone, and then you'll get the coupon to buy the plants. So when you use our water saver landscape coupon and you put those plants in and you remove the grass, not in that order, you're going to need to remove the irrigation heads, whether it's the whole zone or not. That's part of the point of the landscape coupons is to water less. So if you have irrigation heads in that area, you're going to need to cap them, but hopefully you can take out that whole zone and get a rebate for that zone. I hope that made sense. How do you think, Martha?
I
That
think
make
that was
sense?
great. And
Okay.
another question came in about using it, using the coupon for artificial turf. No, it's not eligible for artificial turf, but if you are removing zones of irrigation, which you won't need for artificial turf, if you
Right.
are removing zones of irrigation, definitely give us a call, have us come out and do that consult before you do any changes to the irrigation, and you would be eligible for our irrigation design rebate. So that's a great option for people.
And
This,
either way, you're going to save water, so it's a good
yes,
thing.
yeah. This is my favorite question because I have the same problem. How do I successfully remove those oak tree shoots all throughout the lawn and flower beds?
I'm going to
All
let
right.
That's
the
all I ask
arborist
everyone.
go that
I
way.
will. I'm doing this because this is a question that I've had given to me for the last 37 years, and really we don't have any other options except these three. cut down all the sprouts really close and cover them with landscape cloth, and then cover that with a decorative mulch of some type, either organic or inorganic. Option number 2, cut all of them down and plant in a ground cover. Generally, we use Asiatic jasmine because it is similar to all the, it looks similar to the sprouts. Or 3, we intermingle a slightly taller perennial and ground cover to shade out the sprouts, and so you get the benefit of additional plants, and then you kind of shade out the sprouts over time. So that's kind of what we're limited to, those 3 options.
Great.
Hey, Seth, do you got any other ones?
Nope. Covered up, or covered up.
Yeah,
Seth?
either with landscape cloth or by other plants.
Yeah, it's in the nature of these oak trees to shoot out, just send out those shoots. So
Yeah.
we're battling nature there.
Seth, the next one's for you because you said horseherb is one of your favorites, I think. My whole backyard is pretty much horseherb. What happens to it in the winter? The soil will be exposed, won't it?
So it depends on how serious of a winter we have. If we have a nice mild winter, it'll last throughout the year and almost act as an evergreen. Of course, with a hard freeze like we had, it will die back and it will sit there a little crunchy until, you know, it rains in the spring and it all sprouts back up and comes back. So to answer the question, I guess it depends. Our usual mild winters, it should stay green throughout, but we do have exceptions, and there could be a time where if you decide to remove the dead thatch, that you could have exposed ground. You could try to mix in some annual perennials, something that are more cold or seasonal, that are going to bloom in the winter and the early spring, to kind of fill in that area. I don't know if Mark would have any suggestions.
I was going to say, I find I get more questions in late July or August, when it does go into a bit of a dormancy during the summertime. And then in the cooler months, it actually, I don't have many questions. I don't have a problem with it. But like Seth said, a coolish winter will cause it to die back and go into dormancy. I should not use the word die back. It goes into dormancy. It is still there. It's just going to sleep a little bit. So the more questions I get is in the summertime. So yeah, add some wildflowers, add some other plants that do well in the summer is what my experience has been.
And then we're getting a couple questions from people. This is not for us to answer now, but I am writing these down for those of you who are putting notes in about us working with a specific vendor for either the landscape or Patioscape coupon. I will pass those messages along to our planner who's in charge of that program. You can always email us too in the future if people have questions about why we work with certain vendors, other vendors they think we should work with. We'll try to get to those. Of the ground covers for the shade that you listed, I guess maybe each one of you guys give me one quick answer to this. Of the ground covers for the shade that we listed, could you each give us your favorite that can withstand the most shade?
Yes, inland sea oats. It grows in the Salado Creek back behind my house, and there is such tree cover that if any specks of sun get through, and it goes gangbusters. That's my vote.
There's one photo we did not use, is a picture that I took of McAllister Park. And if anybody's been to McAllister Park, it can get quite shady. And so underneath is all these acres and acres of inland sea oats. So yeah, that would be a really good one.
Seth, do you have a favorite?
My favorite's definitely horseherb. I mean, that's what my backyard is. I have pretty deep shade in my backyard, and there's some patches of St. Augustine that I have just kind of abused and not watered and left alone, and they kind of do okay in the sun, but for the most part, the yard's been taken over by a beautiful coating of horseherb, and I do no maintenance except for mow it once or twice a year, and that's all it needs. It does wonderful.
Okay, great. And then, Mark,
let me do one. I'll go off charter here. I would say a juga would be, if I didn't have any deer, would be my choice. I can put it in between patio, or I can use it in a bed. So I love Juga, and then mondo grass probably is my choice
So
for
speaking of deer,
shade. Sorry.
do
Oh,
deer eat buffalo grass? Don't worry about that with buffalo grass.
If,
I,
okay, so this, everybody is pausing on this because the answer is, if there's a drought, all bets are off. Okay.
There we
yeah.
go.
So yeah, if they have other choices, they're going to go for the other choices.
But-
Top favorites, but there's a lot of non-favorites that they eat when
Yeah.
it's just hot and dry.
Yeah, whitetail
But
tend to eat browsers, and they'll eat shrubs and things like that. But they kind of like the little seeds. If there's seeds on the buffalo grass, they will munch on those to no end. It's kind of like peanuts. You can't stop eating a peanut. It's just for them. It's the little seeds.
So, Seth, since you came to us from Dallas, will HabiTurf and/or ThunderTurf work in Dallas? How about Texas sedge?
I think they'll both work pretty well. I mean, obviously it's going to be a little bit colder up there, but at least you have much deeper soils there, so you should be able to prepare. And I grew buffalo grass up in Dallas very well, very successfully. So I think the mix will do great. It'll go into winter dormancy, but it's also quite pretty in winter. It's kind of got a golden sheen to it, and blowing in the wind, it's definitely an appealing grass. So I would say yes for sure. Just make sure you have 6 inches of soil. And I'm sorry, what was the last part of that question?
What about Texas sedge?
Oh, Texas sedge, definitely. Sedges should do great up there. Again, the sedges, they're very shade tolerant, whereas the other mixes are not. So that would be a good option to kind of, in fact, the property where I had my buffalo grass, there were areas that were too shady, and we used a very similar sedge to accent the shadier areas and kind of seamlessly blend them together. Even though they weren't exactly the same texture, the Texas sedge has a fine enough leaf blade that it does look very similar.
Great. And
So
what
I've
kind?
seen I've seen an article that showed the HabiTurf and the ThunderTurf up in the Dallas area. But on that same note, there's another one from Ellen Barnett asking about Missouri. And since Mark's from Michigan, it's not quite Missouri, but it's closer. I'm going to let him
It
answer.
has an
He's
M.
asking that HabiTurf and ThunderTurf grow well further northern than Dallas in Missouri. I don't know.
I would recommend
The the
on some of these questions for
yeah.
specific areas, I would recommend looking for Master Gardeners, Master Naturalists, some kind of a website that's local to the area. Mark can answer the question too, but
Okay,
local.
I was going to go to that, but that's even a better answer, Martha. One of the greatest websites that we have for across the country is the Missouri Botanical Garden. So look up Missouri Botanical Garden and for their plants, and it's a wonderful website. It's right up there to Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. They're neck and neck, but of course I would like the Texas one before the Missouri one. But there you go. That's what it is. Yes, Martha.
Perfect.
Oh,
So
you look like you're going to ask another question.
we have a bunch more, and we are coming towards the end of our time. So we're going to keep going. We understand if people have to hop off, but we're going to keep going for a few more minutes. I guess Seth will ask you this one. HabiTurf buffalo grass, are these planted by seed? And if so, what kind of soil prep is necessary?
Yes, so all of these, the HabiTurf and the ThunderTurf, which are a mix of 3 grasses, they're exactly the same, blue grama, curly mesquite, and buffalo grass, they're all seed-based. So you would buy multiple pounds of seed based on how much area you need to plant. Of course, you can refer to the individual HabiTurf or ThunderTurf websites to get that, how much seed to purchase. But in order to prep for it, it kind of depends on what you're already growing there, in my opinion. Ideally, you should be tilling or ripping the soil down to like 8 inches before you plant. But if you're already growing some of the non-native grasses like Bermuda grass, You may want to go through a process of trying to kill or eliminate that as best you can before you start putting down your native grass lawn, simply because Bermuda grass in particular can be very tenacious, and trying to get rid of it in the long run can be very, very difficult. So it's better to start from scratch. You can do solarization as an option if you want to kill off your old lawn. That's a matter of putting down like black plastic tarps or clear tarps and letting it bake in the heat of the summer for many weeks, just to try and kill all the root system down in the ground before you go in and till and put in the new seed. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was going through that. The solarization, the you can spray. That's what I do, and then plant just in situ, or you can till and spray. But you kind of want to do minimal prep for this because it is a native soil and native species, and you just got to slightly prepare the bed on that. That's just been my experience. We all have different ways of doing it.
And I think Seth answered another question that had come in, that you would till after the solarization process, correct, Seth?
Yeah, that's correct.
And we do have, Mark, what was the webinar we did recently? We did a webinar. It should be on our how-to videos page under the webinar tab, where this one will go also, that talks about preparing your landscape, right?
Yeah, actually we did that for, I believe, Gail and I did that for Spring Bloom.
Yeah,
it's called,
I
found it. Prep your landscape, how to remove grass.
Yeah.
So.
And I would minimize tilling as much as possible. There might be a need for some, but disturbing the soil too much can also disturb the microbes and the rhizomes in a negative way. So do what you need to do, but don't go cray.
Do you need 6 inches of soil for sedge?
Mark?
Yeah, I was going to say no, but the more important is the shade amount. It prefers shade, so it's not going to go in full sunlight. Try to. These are for sedges for sites that are partially or mostly shade. We did a garden tour once and a place over off of Military Highway. It was almost all shade, but it was beautiful. They had 8 inches of sedge. And it was gorgeous. And it was flowing, just like Seth mentioned about the buffalo grass. It was very nice.
So again, we're getting questions, pretty specific questions. Some of them send them to the Garden Geek because we're not going to get into too many specifics right now. But if you have questions about the coupon, you don't have to do any changes to your irrigation system, but you likely are changing your irrigation system as you're doing it. And so look at the irrigation design rebate, check out our website for all of that. And call us for an irrigation consultation if you have irrigation.
And they may actually have to do some changes for the coupon because they may have to cap heads where they're putting the coupon-based patio or gardenscape in.
That's true. Thank you. Are any of these plants unattractive to mosquitoes?
Are they unattractive? You mean?
Well, I don't think many people are attracting mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Most of them they want more.
Hey, I just want to shout out next week on the newsletter, the weekly newsletter that comes out on Tuesdays afternoon, we'll have an article called Mosquitoes, Masters of Misery. And it talks about all the different ways you can get rid of the mosquitoes. So herbs, essential oils. So some of those herbs that we mentioned as ground covers can be used as not necessarily they won't attract or push away. I'm having trouble here. Push away mosquitoes, but essential oils are often used in mosquito prevention. And my advice is run barefoot through the mint, back and forth, and you will be happy about that. It'll keep the mosquitoes away.
Great. Okay, we're going to do a couple more real quick, probably 2 more questions. So when you're planting all of these different ground covers, what is the best way? Some people are talking about spot control of weeds. What's the best way to control weeds within, amongst, and around the ground cover?
Oh. What do we say is a wonderful time right now? We were talking about that prior to the start of the webinar.
It's weeding time.
Dig
It
weed.
is weeding time because they're easy to pull out the ground covers. So that's what Seth and Gail are doing right now. Is they're pulling out all the weeds out of their yard. The best way to get weeds out of a lawn, if you still have a lawn, is mow, 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 mow. And that's why we advise mowing every week, once a week.
Okay, and then our last question for today, we're getting lots of questions about different plants that are taking over people's yards. So our ground covers such as silver ponyfoot, frog fruit, and thyme, are they aggressive? People are not wanting things that will spread and take over the rest of their yard. And is there any way to stop that from spreading?
No
I
way.
haven't seen them be overly aggressive.
No.
The other thing is you can put edging in that kind of keeps plants in their borders. Trimming, I actually have a lantana that likes to just be bigger than I want it to be, and it ends up being in the street. And the postman runs over it every day. So he's edging it for me every day. And sometimes that may be what it takes. But, if you have a successful plant, I don't know. I think I'm going to just say be happy with that. But I understand, stay where they are. It may take a little edging. It may take a little trimming. But I don't think they're overly aggressive. They're not going to go crazy and spread their everywhere.
Of the
And
ones you
I
mentioned,
want them
no,
to.
they're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
Great.
not going to be aggressive. But that I'd strongly use the use of borders, either steel or rock. That's what I like.
Agreed.
Okay, so I lied. I said that was the last question. I'm going to answer two more super quick just to finish us off. Is there a program for totally getting rid of your in-ground irrigation? Yes. We will pay you
Yes.
to retire your irrigation system, all or part of it. So call us for a consult, 704-SAVE, 210-704-SAVE, 7283. Great, but check.
78283.
7283, yeah.
7283.
And then the last question I'm going to answer real quick. Is there a place in SA where we can see all of these ground covers in person? My favorite place, I think you can see them all. You can see a lot of these all around town. But my favorite place would be the Botanical Garden. Go check out the Botanical Garden. They have a lot of these ground covers. They have Water Saver Lane, which SAWS helped with, Conservation helped with. You can see a lot of different examples of really great plants that are great for the area because it's the San Antonio Botanical Garden. So,
Absolutely. Great.
any last thoughts from you three?
No, we thank everybody for watching, and keep apprised of additional future webinars by looking at the calendar on GardenStyleSanAntonio.com. And we'll be doing these once a month, every Thursday. I'm sorry, once a month.
One
Not
Thursday
every
a month.
Thursday, a Thursday once a month.
Generally early in the month. So,
Yeah.
and sign up for the Garden Style SA newsletter if you have not already. Sign up for rewards. Go take the rewards survey. You will find the link for that on gardenstylesa.com, gardenstylesanantonio.com on the calendar. And yeah, thank you, Gail, Seth, Mark. Thank you so much for all of this and for answering so many questions. For those who we didn't get to your questions, we're really sorry, but send them to the Garden Geek, and
Yes, please.
and the Garden Geek, some anonymous human, will get to them. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Happy
you.
gardening.
Thank you. Enjoy the rain.